Welcome to the Darkstream. Looks like this method worked a little better than the last one, so we're gonna have a whack. Okay, that's a lot of people coming in. All right. Haven't seen you all for a while, so nice to see you live. And as you're aware, it's been a crazy couple of weeks. And it's also been an incredibly busy couple of weeks, which is the main reason that I haven't been doing any streaming. But I think that it's a good time to discuss why my perspective is so fundamentally different than the mainstream perspective. And also to let you know that I'm going to be releasing a video in the next 2 days, which is going to explain something that I've explained before, but apparently is needed, and that is the explication of what evidence actually is, the difference between evidence and proof, and how that relates to the current situation with regards to the US presidential election. Now, just so you are aware, in case you haven't been reading the blog, I suspect that most of you have been reading the blog simply because the traffic there went from 100,000 to 200,000 practically overnight, and has stayed there. So there's a lot of discussion and a lot of stuff going on the blog. And if you've read it, then you know that I am extremely confident that there was a Trump slide. I believe that the Trump slide is the reason that the electoral fraud had to come out of the shadows and get implemented in a very crude and obvious way by a lot of people who are not really capable of hiding what they were doing. And I think that what is in the process of coming out over the next couple weeks is the fact that it's not just this election, but it's also past elections were probably somewhat different than we think. For example, in 2018, and you can look up on the blog and see my coverage of the 2018 election night, it looked very much, based on the key indicators, that the Republican Party was going to do very well in those congressional elections. And then somehow, miraculously, I went to bed over here in Europe in the full confidence that things were going well, and then woke up and was absolutely mystified to see how it could have happened. Ryan Hart said, "Looks like they'll get away with it. Utter coward judges." No, I don't believe they are going to get away with it. And I'll explain why when we get to that. But when you look at what happened in the US presidential election, it was extremely confusing to me initially when I woke up, because, as you know, I specifically identified the core counties, and it was really intriguing to see the way that the most important core county, Broward, went very differently than the other core counties. And keep in mind, most of these counties that are current battlegrounds, Wayne, in Michigan, Milwaukee, or sorry, not Milwaukee, but what's the name of it? It's in the Milwaukee area, but the Philadelphia. Uh, these were counties that I specifically identified. And so it was not a surprise to me at all to see what was happening there. Fulton, right? Fulton in, I think that's in Georgia. There's also the Mecklenburg in North Carolina. And so it wasn't a surprise at all once I started looking into it to see that it was very clear and very apparent that there was something very funky going on when they stopped the count and then started the count up again. It was very clear that they were obviously producing more ballots. And one of the things that is, I think, going to come out is that this is much more widespread. Yeah, somebody just said Hennepin or something. Nobody's talking about Hennepin County. You don't see anyone discussing about Hennepin County in the media. But I can tell you that there were almost certainly about 100,000 ballots manufactured in Hennepin County, simply because I used to live there. I know how many people there are. I know what the area is like. One of my best friends still lives there. And the idea that Joe Biden got 25% more votes in Hennepin County than the average of 2 Obama elections and the Hillary Clinton election, at the same time that Donald Trump got 13.5% more votes than either himself or John McCain or Mitt Romney, it defies credulity. You simply don't see that sort of change in voting behavior when the population hasn't grown. Peter Battle says, I'm in Hennepin County, no way in hell Edina voted Biden. Yeah, remember, this is where the George Floyd riots took place. They took place in Hennepin County. And a lot of those good white DFLers who always vote Democrat for president were very, very sour on the Democratic Party because of the way that the mayor handled the situation. And I was hearing from people that they were going to vote for Trump. And these were people who probably never voted for a Republican for president before. So how does it happen that Trump increases his vote by 13.5%, but Biden increases it by 25%? That's not credible. And it fits it fits the precise scenario that we're seeing people talk about, which is the Trump campaign overperformed. This is why Trump was campaigning right till the very end. He wanted to drive up his vote totals enough so that they weren't going to be able to cheat easily. What they were forced to do is they were forced to not only intervene with the computers, but they were also forced to generate the fake ballots. And that's why the numbers are so much bigger than anyone had ever imagined. And if you look at all the other indicators, the bellwether counties, what was it, 16 out of the 17 bellwether counties all went for Trump? Suddenly that doesn't make any difference? No, of course not. Now, I understand that a lot of these issues are somewhat difficult when you don't have the core grasp of math that's necessary. But let me put it this way. If you're watching a football game and suddenly the score changes, and it doesn't just change on the one side, but it changes on the other. You suddenly see the score go from 21 to 14, and it suddenly changes to 31-4, are you going to think that that is a legitimate event that took place on the football field? No, of course not, because it's not even possible. How can you possibly score 10 points at a time in a football game? How can you lose 10 points off the scoreboard? How can those two things happen at precisely the same time? It's not possible. And this is why people are so confident that very illegal shenanigans are going to come out, because too many little things and too many big things have happened that are not possible. And so it's not about, somebody said cope. No, it's not about coping. I would say exactly the same thing if I saw these things happening on Trump's behalf. When you see something that is not mathematically possible, then you don't need to defend it. You don't need to even explain it to anyone. You know beyond any shadow of doubt that whatever they're saying is not true. Numbers don't lie. And so what if the corruption is so rampant that everyone ends up closing their eyes? Well, that's what this process is all about. This process is all about presenting it in a way that nobody is going to be able to deny it. And so a lot of you are frustrated because you want Trump to do something, say something. Well, they're already telling you everything that you need to know. They're already telling you, look, Trump actually got 80 million votes. Biden actually got 7 million votes less than he received. I mean, what more do you need to know? That's all you need to know that Biden lost, Trump won, and it's just a matter of going through the correct procedures in order to make it clear to everyone. And the media is totally irrelevant. Animatronic says, if Trump has Kraken-level evidence, why is he fighting small battles over signatures, recounts, etc.? Because you have to do that. You have to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. If you haven't been involved in what would you suggest he do? Going on television and making a statement? He's already made the statement saying, I won. He's already made the statement saying there was electoral fraud. What are you expecting him to do that he hasn't already done? The fraud is everywhere. The fraud is all over the place. But if you're involved in a legal process, you have to go through all the relevant steps, even when you know perfectly well that perfectly well what's going to happen. Let me give you an example. If you are in a arbitration, the rules are very, very clear. It says, after you file a demand for arbitration, the other side has 7 days to respond. Those are the rules. And when you file an arbitration, it is very unusual that the corporation will respond within 7 days, right? So you, in your innocence, say, well, they didn't respond in 7 days. I'm going to file a motion saying that they're not allowed to file because that's what the rules say. Do you think that works? The rules are perfectly clear. 7 days. Well, guess what? No matter how many times you go through the process, and no matter how clear the rules are, every single arbitrator will say, I know the rules say that, but I'm going to allow it. And they will come up with a different reason every single time. Well, in practice, the rules are liberal and not meant to be applied literally. Really? Why is the rule written? How is a consumer coming in for the first time supposed to know that? I mean, it's total nonsense, right? But you still have to go through the process. And so if you skip the process, if you say, well, you know that I oppose that, then you will lose. Because if you don't protest those little things, then you're not going to get the chance to discuss the big things. So you have to hit all of it. You have to dot every I, you have to cross every T, especially when you know that at least part of the system is stacked against you. It doesn't mean you're going to lose. Okay? I have seen situations where the judge absolutely 100% wanted to not only rule against somebody, but penalize them. He had a personal vendetta. And yet he wasn't able to, because the rules of the system were strong enough that he wasn't able to overcome it, even with his position of great personal power. So don't black pill on this whole, well, the judges are going to do this. They don't have the power. Trump is the president. Trump has the power. He has the ability to declare the Insurrection Act tonight. He's not doing it because he doesn't need to. He's not giving up. He's not cucking. He's not conceding. A couple questions. Working Class Bear says, how do you think that left will act when Trump wins? I think they're going to freak out, and I think that you're going to see the summer's riots on steroids. I think that if you thought the whole Antifa BLM thing was bad this summer, their reaction to having what they thought was an easy win taken away from them is going to really set them off. I suspect that that is one reason why the Trump campaign and the Trump administration are being so careful to make sure that everything is laid out very clearly in a way that the media is not easily able to spin and deny. Anaf Habib says, the president has all the cards, no need to be panicked or demoralized. He is simply playing out the theater sequentially so that the normies are less flummoxed when the storm hits. Multiple paths to victory, trust the plan. I agree entirely. Talon says, has your experience with Patreon and IGG and spinning up the Legal Legion of Evil added to your insight into the steps we are all impatiently waiting to get through in this election? Absolutely. Absolutely, because I've gotten accustomed to having to wait for things to take place. And I mean, there's always unexpected stuff. There's always new tricks and tactics popping up, and people have to figure out how to deal with this and that and the other thing. But you get a much better sense for the fact that there is an absolute ton going on right now. I mean, people are complaining that the likes of Giuliani and Powell and Ellis aren't doing anything. That's crazy. They are probably working on 4 hours of sleep a night. That's how busy they are. You know, there's you can't just make an argument. You have to provide all of the evidence. And that's something we're going to get into in that video. But you know, that's why it's so stupid when you see the media saying there's no evidence of this. There is a massive quantity of evidence. There's testimonial evidence. There's documentary evidence. I mean, for crying out loud, do you understand that when people are talking about science, there's no evidence of that? You know, when scientific evidence is presented, how is it presented? Usually somebody who's totally unrelated to it, getting up and reading a piece of documentary evidence that describes what the scientist did. And then people go, oh, well, that's proper evidence. That's way less accurate than a signed affidavit. You know, that's why scientific evidence isn't even allowed in court, because there's nothing there. It's not like they're performing the experiment right in front of everybody. I mean, do you know what peer-reviewed actually means? It means editing. That's it. All peer review means, it doesn't mean that somebody goes and like checks out the experiment or anything. It means that they send the write-up, they send the summary of the experiment, and somebody else looks at it and says, that looks reasonable. And then they publish it. That's it. There's literally no more to it than that. And that's the gold standard that they're trying to claim that these witness affidavits are not meeting. They're trying to claim that things are hearsay when it's somebody themselves heard. Hearsay is when somebody tells party A tells party B, and then party B tells party C. If party C tells you what party A said, that's hearsay. But if party B says party A told me something, that's not hearsay. That's testimonial evidence. Okay? People testifying, affidavits, witness testimony, that is not only evidence, that is the most legally sound type of evidence that exists. Doesn't mean that it's always correct. Just like turning in documentary evidence isn't always correct either. Just because you sent in a piece of paper does not mean that the piece of paper, the information on the piece of paper is accurate. You know, you need to learn to think about what these words actually mean when you see the media making ridiculous statements about them. Anthony says, I'm all for BLM and Antifa rioting. The American public may support a retaliation by Trump. Oh, I have no doubt they would. Jason Rose said, when and how would you prepare for the U.S. fraction? I've said for over 15 years that I believe that the fraction will take place in 2033 or thereabouts. And the best way to prepare for that is make sure that you are in a homogenous community into which you fit comfortably, and preferably one that is away from large heterogeneous populations. Precom Unknown is kind enough to send $25 without a question. Thank you. And Kyle, Kyle sends a hippo. That's funny. Any thoughts on the statement by Trump campaign regarding Powell? Yes, actually I do. It's very simple. People keep saying that Powell works for Trump. She doesn't. That's all. It's not a disavowal. It's not a discrediting. They are just making sure that everybody understands that she is not part of that official team effort, or part of the president's personal effort. That doesn't mean anything at all. So, is Trump's project global? Yes. It's not just about this election. All of these liberal lower courts won't even listen to them. Of course they won't, because some of them are probably on the list. You know, I mean, I think that Giuliani was being a little bit sarcastic, and possibly a little bit cruel when he thanked the judge for throwing it out promptly so that they could get to the next level right away. That's what they want. That's where they want to get to. Why do you think they went to the trouble of arranging the Supreme Court judges to hear the certain states the way they did? You can literally see various elements of the plan coming together, and yet some people are still saying nothing's happening. Why is nothing? I mean, again, legal processes are very, very slow. This is actually incredibly rapid. And here's the other thing. You do not want to put all your cards on the table until the game starts. If they come out and show all their evidence that they've got, what's going to happen? The other side is immediately going to go to work to try to reduce the impact and the effect of that evidence. I've seen this in private lawsuits and arbitrations. You know, you can't stress enough the importance of not showing all your cards before you have to play them. If you play poker, you know, do you hold up your cards and say, hey, I got a king. Look, I got a king. I'm going to beat you because I got a king. So why would you ever do that when you're dealing with the court process? What more do you need Trump to do than tell you, hey, I won. We've got this. I mean, yes, I would probably prefer it myself more if Trump would not post tweets that look kind of like whining. But that's how he's always talked. So he's not going to change now. You know, the corrupt judge threw out the fraud case. Sad. That's how he talks. You know, I mean, frankly, if I was in Trump's position, I wouldn't be talking to people much either. I would just say, everything's fine. We've got this. I won. Don't worry about it. Because what are you going to do? What can you do? You know, you're not going to do anything. So stop thinking that your feelings are relevant to the process. You know, somebody posted on the blog today, and they said, well, I would feel a lot better about what you're saying if you could reassure us that it's not based on Q. Now, as it happens, what I was saying has nothing whatsoever to do with Q. But I did not reassure them. I said, I think that everyone will feel a lot better about this whole post-election situation if they will understand first, I don't care how you feel. And second, Trump doesn't either. You know, how do you feel about the Patreon situation? Doesn't matter. How do you feel about the election? Doesn't matter. You know, if you're not involved directly, then there's nothing you can do. I don't lose any sleep about the Patreon stuff. Why? I'm not directly involved. I may be better informed than most, but it's not, not being a lawyer. I don't have any, what am I going to contribute? I don't know California law from Utah law from Venezuelan law. So, I mean, I know a bit just because it's been explained to me, but I certainly didn't go to law school for it. In the same way, what do you know about constitutional law? What do you know about Philadelphia elections? I mean, you have to learn to trust the people who are dealing with it, or else just not think about it at all. Where do you think the first fracturing in the U.S. will be? Well, it'll be in the cities, but I mean, California is the obvious candidate. How much more can the media's reputation degrade at this point? Well, apparently a lot. I mean, look at how many people are blackpilling and demoralized because the media demoralized them. I mean, you may think that you don't listen to the media, but you do. And the reason that I can tell is that you repeat media talking points. I know perfectly well that, it's not an original idea that is coming out of your mouth. I've seen it being propagated throughout the media. They propagate narratives, and then people who are influenced by them spit them out. So, stop watching Fox. Fox is not informing you. They are misinforming you. I never watch Fox. I didn't even watch Fox for the election. I would rather watch CNN, and I did watch CNN, because it's more valuable to me to understand what the open enemy is saying than to figure out how Fox is trying to manipulate the conservatives. Expectation for the U.S. South. I don't know. I mean, I'm not from the South. I only lived in Florida for part of 2 years. Will blacks be able to unite and form a localized national identity? Probably not very successfully. Or attempt to glom on to another host nation? Well, that's the obvious play. I mean, that's what they're doing in Europe right now. So, thanks for posting the I hope I'm wrong comments. We had such a good laugh reading them today. Yeah, I don't have any sympathy or tolerance for people that do the whole, well, I think what's going to happen is that the judges are all going to decide against him and he's going to go to jail. I mean, I sure hope I'm wrong, but that's what I think. Well, just get out, All you're doing is playing that same stupid little psychological game to make yourself feel better. So, it's like the guys who predict that their football team is going to lose, but I'm the happiest ever if I'm wrong. That's somebody working out their own psychological issues out loud. It has no value whatsoever for anyone else. There's no reason to engage it. There's no reason to listen to it. And and part of the reason that I'm so confident that the media is in a really bad position is because so much of the stuff that they're saying is false, and so much of the stuff that other people are saying is false. Like, for example, the crazy story about the raid in Germany to seize a server that was being used to manipulate the election. So, I look at these denials where, well, we don't even have an office there. Okay, well, you don't, but do these two other companies that seem to be related to it, or is there some sort of CIA front there? The denials are so specific and avoidant of the significant point. that always tells you something. Sometimes denials are the best confirmation that you can get. Sir Richard Morris says, the God Emperor's second term will be glorious. He will have a Trump Senate House. What cabinet and policy choices would you like to see? I don't know about cabinet choices, but for policy choices, I want to see end of birthright citizenship. I want to see an attack on pretty much all of the globalist ties, and I want to see them start on the repatriations. But the main thing that he's doing right now is probably the most important thing, which is focusing on cleaning out the corruption in the electoral system. So, Yosarian says, I watched TYT Senk cried. I don't know what that means. When? Like, did he cry with happiness when he thought Biden won? Did he cry now because he's beginning to realize that Biden didn't win? I have no idea what that means. Sink the damn boats. Yeah, that too. That too. Sunflower Bear points out, yeah, Dominion's website is all damage control, guilt by denial. Precisely. Bearable Pain points out that Article 2, Section 1 tells us how much the media is misinforming the public about who chooses. The AP does not call the election. Precisely. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever. Oh, he's starting to cry now. Yeah, that's good. Let's see here. Any news in Europe about that raid? No, but there wouldn't be. But what I can tell you is that some of the objections that people have raised to the possibility that it happened are entirely spurious. The U.S. military gets involved in little actions all the time. There was a little raid that took place in our ally of Pakistan, of which you may have heard. And there's a lot of other operations. I mean, anybody who has been acquainted with Navy SEALs, Marine Force Recon, or other special operations groups knows perfectly well that there's plenty of little operations that take place all over the world in allied countries, etc., etc. So to claim that it couldn't have taken place because it would have caused an international incident, I mean, it's just not true. Anyhow, we don't know whether the raid was, whether it actually happened or not, but certainly people are making some very specific claims about it, and so I guess we'll find out soon. How involved do you think that the CIA was involved in this election? I think that the entire attempt to cheat and turn the election over to Biden was controlled by the CIA on the electronic side. I think that they were probably not involved at all in the paper side. One thing that people don't seem to necessarily be grasping is that there were two aspects, at least two aspects, to the fraud. Number one, you've got the computer side where they got involved in the counting and started multiplying the Biden vote and fractionalizing the Trump vote. And then on the other side, you've got the straightforward, fill out fake ballots cheating that almost certainly did not involve any sort of higher level institution like the CIA. That would have been a primarily local driven effort. But the reason that it was necessary to pull out all the stops and show their hand this way is because there was a Trump slide. I told you there was going to be one. There was one, and that's what broke the cheating system. And we already know it. I mean, look at it. Even with his reduced number of votes, his artificially reduced number of votes, look at how many votes he got. Sidney Powell off Trump's team, at least officially. Don't think official titles mean anything to Trump itself. Sidney Powell was never on his team. That's the whole point. That's the whole reason that they released that statement, was to try to make it clear to everybody that she wasn't on the team. You know, it's not I mean, to relate it to another recent event, Black Rifle Coffee was not, you know, disavowing Kyle Rittenhouse. They were accused of endorsing and supporting him and so forth, and they made it clear that no, you know, that's, you know, we have no relationship with him. And so Karen took the kid says, no evidence of widespread voter fraud. Also, no evidence of cognitive decline in Joe Biden. Also, definitely not meth. Yeah, I mean, this is just the same game that Wikipedia plays all the time. You know, there's no reliable sources. Well, here's a birth certificate with the person's birth date on it, so we can use this. It's a reliable source about their name. Well, that's not how we define reliable source. Well, what does reliable source mean? Reliable source is a source that we consider to be reliable. So obviously, a birth certificate that is definitive proof can't be a reliable source. It's just more of that satanic inversion. Keyboard Stick says the math is obvious. Most people suck at math. They have to trust experts. Exactly. Exactly. Do you believe the down ballot was affected? Well, not as much as it should have been, because it's very clear that the late local voting, or the late local cheating, was entirely focused on the presidential election. And plus, also that cheating was focused on specific key counties that are Democratic strongholds, where the local vote was never going to go the Republican way anyhow. So I think it probably was affected somewhat in close House and Senate races, but that would be about it. I mean, what's interesting is if you look at, for example, in Hennepin County, I don't want to say anything because I didn't look closely enough, but we'll leave that. Bearable Pain says Trump's incessant campaigning made them overcheat. Biden has 5 million more votes than Hillary, 10 million more than Obama. No, definitely not. Should we not vote for Rhino senators, congressmen? Not at the primary stage, but it's probably better to have the rhinos in than Democrats. Chip says if President Trump had done more to protect his supporters online, he would have a much more powerful voice now. Instead, he let them be censored, and now it's happening to him. I agree. I think that that was one of his mistakes. I think that he should have stopped dicking around on Twitter and actually given someone like his son a mandate to do something about cleaning up social media and holding them accountable. But the guy can't do everything. And Trump is the greatest American president since Andrew Jackson already. And when his second term is done, we may decide that even that caveat does not apply. CBS headline, many Republicans calling for Trump to concede. Yeah, they're just pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. But it's not working. Nobody's paying any attention. They've convinced and demoralized everyone that they were able to convince and demoralize. But it's not touching the people that pay attention to people like me, or people like Razor Fist, or other observers who are intelligent enough to see through the media campaign. You know, the reading a media headline has literally no effect on me. I'm from the media. Keep in mind, I'm probably one of the only two-time nationally syndicated columnists that you've ever heard of. You know, I was nationally syndicated by, for two completely different types of columns. It's very unusual, and it means that I have a relatively in-depth knowledge of the way that the media works and how they write their headlines. I mean, they sometimes manage to get headlines wrong on my columns. I once got called out by somebody, David Pacman, back when I was still doing media interviews. And this is why I don't do media interviews anymore, because they never tell the truth about anything. Well, here, if they never tell the truth about anything, then what you are reading, is at least partly false. Karen Took the Kid said, the media said Trump was in the Oval Office crying and they were trying to decide which family member would break the news to him. If you believe that, you need to get an MRI. Exactly. The media told you that. Did you believe it at the time? Do you believe it now? If no, then why do you believe anything else that they say? Do you think this likely ends up in the House of Reps where Trump wins, where they vote by state delegations? No, I don't think so. I think that Joe Biden is going to concede. I think that what we're waiting for, and I put this on the blog, Rex posted a nice Twitter thread, and why do you think we're not seeing much out of Biden? Why do you think that we're not seeing much out of Kamala Harris? Because they're the ones who are under pressure, not Trump. Trump knows what happened. It's just like us in the Patreon situation. We know what happened. And we're just playing out the whole process so that eventually the judge and the arbitrators will say, yeah, that happened. Static says, what do you say of the rebuttal that the reason there are so many more votes is because of the convenience of mail-in ballots? I'd say that you have to be retarded to buy into that. Why don't you look at the percentage of mail-in ballots returned from countries where mail-in voting has been permitted for decades? It's not that much higher. Why does the level of general retardation appear to increase during times of stress conflict? Because stress and conflict makes you emotional, and when you're emotional, you're not thinking. It's difficult. When people are under stress, they make mistakes. When people are under stress, they can't think straight. When people are under stress, they can't they can't control their words. So, it's just normal. Could the VFM help Trump? He doesn't need it. Reverend Reich said, yeah, it's weird how the Biden team is not screaming their heads off about Trump like they have about fake stuff. Now real election fraud and they're quiet. Well, not only that, but they're afraid to directly address Trump. Only their proxies in the media are willing and able to do that. I want to be appeal to your intellect here. That's not a good start. I'm a conservative that voted for Biden. Then you're a fool. I voted for him in person, and it was because of Trump's indifference to Ahmaud, Floyd, Taylor, etc. I think it's cute that you don't think that Biden was equally indifferent to them. I think you might want to look up the definition of conservative, because there's nothing conservative about voting for someone who is definitely questionable when it comes to matters of children and serving Satan. What do you say about Tucker? I think that Tucker wants to keep his job at Fox, and so he'll do and say whatever he's told to do. You know, he's a talking head. Don't get excited about talking heads. I mean, how many times do you need to see somebody like Jordan Peterson or Tucker Carlson or Bill O'Reilly or anybody else before you learn, they're talking heads. That's it. They're like actors. I mean, you realize that Superman can't actually fly. So why do you think that Tucker Carlson has strong principled positions? He's reading a script. He literally has writers. You know he has writers because they made a big deal about what one of his writers had written previously and forced him out. And now he has different writers and he says different stuff. Never pay any attention, ever, to anyone who has a writer. I don't have a writer. I'm just talking to you. You ask me a question, I answer it. There's no one talking in my ear telling me what to say. It's just me. So, whether you're talking about something like Joe Rogan or any other talking head, don't think that you know them. Don't think that you know what they think, because they're not telling you what they think. They're telling you what they're told to say. Flanker says, I love the book Corporate Cancer. That's great. I hope you find it useful. How long do you think the United States will stay together? Until 2033. Do you agree that it will break up eventually? I think I first wrote that it was going to break up in 2033 back in 2004. Back then, everyone thought I was crazy. Now people are, think that I might have been too optimistic. So, Cernovich seems quite upset that Trump didn't protect his supporters better. Yeah, he is. I know Mike. Mike's a good man. He's a loyal man. And I think that he took it very personally that Trump didn't seem to care about his supporters enough to do anything. And I think that that's a perfectly valid criticism. I think it's I think that it's probably one of his character flaws. He only seems to care about people that are directly around him. But that's the way he is. So what? It's also one of the reasons why I try to make sure that, that we stand by people that we support. If you look at Owen, he stood by his bears very, very strongly. And that's one of the reasons why many of them are so loyal to him. Jason Rose, where should I get my information? Wherever you can find it, wherever it proves itself to be reliable. How does Kamala figure in all this? Empty skirt or integral player? She's just the mouthpiece for Silicon Valley. She's been owned, she's been owned by the Silicon Valley for probably decades. So, I mean, they want to install her as president, but since Biden didn't win, that's not going to happen. JP is a writer. Jordan Peterson is a writer. He doesn't need writers. Maybe you're deluded. Jordan Peterson is a writer. He's just a very bad writer. Uh, I mean, he's a bad and incoherent writer. Andrew Smith said, listen to the first third of An Equation of Infinite Complexity yesterday. Loving it. Some really funny and very well written stuff. Yeah, I'm very disappointed that that book didn't do better because I think it's a really good book. Good evening, Vox. What advice would you give to your 29-year-old self? Buy Google stock. So, um, I think you guys worship Trump. You're wrong. He did not come as advertised, so we voted him out. No, you didn't. We got ourselves a retarded groiper here. Um, yeah, I mean, the thing is, don't ever get too excited by an individual. I mean, I tell people all the time, which is a little ironic considering the whole, you know, the whole Legion Dark Lord thing. But I've always told people, you know, don't follow me, don't believe in me, don't hesitate to hold me accountable. Go ahead and criticize my arguments and that sort of thing. One of the reasons why I never fear to engage with, you know, PhDs and subject matter experts and so forth is because generally I've you know, been through much more ferocious tests of my stated views and opinions than, you know, I get when I go up against them. I get much, you know, harsher criticism from my biggest fans. You know, you know, iron sharpens the iron and all that. And that's also one reason why I'm able to come out and take these positions that people might find controversial or ridiculous or whatever without being the least bit concerned about what anybody thinks, because you know, I've been through it time and time and time and time again for 17 years. So, you know, what's going to happen will happen. We don't know. We will see. But all of the observable evidence suggests that Joe Biden is going to concede well before January 20th. So let's just wait. Let's just stick to the plan. And let's just see what happens. Because at the end of the day, that's all you can do anyhow. So, on that note, I wish you a good evening. I'm going to post a pre-recorded video here probably on Tuesday, and it's going to address this question of evidence that so obsesses the media at the moment. So, have a good evening. If some places are still taking bets, it's, you know, you're certainly going to get some good odds. I don't recommend gambling myself, but you might get some interesting bragging rights there. So have a good evening, and we'll see you later. I'm Voxday. This is the Darkstream.